And we're on. Okay, we're rolling.
Are you good?
Yep. Wait, gotta do one more thing. Ready? And you're good to go.
Cool. I'm going to tell you a story. One you've never heard before. Because no one knows this story the way I know it. It takes place the night of June 12th, 1994, and it concerns the murders of Nicole Brown Simpson and her young friend Ronald Goldman. Forget everything you think you know about that night, because I know the facts better than anyone. The story you think you know, that's not the story, not even close. This is one story the whole world got wrong. Who said that? O.J. Simpson in 2006 in his Judith Regan interview on Fox. Why did he say that? Was he trying to tell you something? This is one story the world got wrong. Well, I thought we knew the story. I thought we knew everything about O.J. Simpson and Nicole and Ron and June 12th, 1994. Maybe we didn't. I wrote 2 books. One's called If We Did It. The other's called Ron's Revenge. Today I'm going to read from those. I'm going to read from a screenplay that was written by the accomplice, Charlie. You've heard his name before. He was talked about in the book If I Did It, Chapter 6. And that book coincides with the Judith Regan interview. How did I meet Charlie? How did I have the opportunity to go on this journey? We're going to talk about that. So this basically is somewhat of a podcast, right? I've had a few people tell me that I need to do this, and I never did it. And I know everybody and their mother has a podcast, and I think it's awesome. I think it's great. People are telling stories, and this is kind of like my introduction to you. It's just me and you. The world I've created over the last 7-8 years is going to shock you. And I'm going to talk about it today. And I'm grateful for my friends who have talked me into doing this. I didn't want to. I fought it for years. How long have they been doing podcasts? Years. They do big deals on that stuff too. So I missed that train. I didn't start when they started because I was living my journey. Hollywood makes movies about crime solvers and serial killers, and a lot of times they glorify criminals. I do it for real. Sometimes I'm undercover. I'm not a private investigator. I'm an investigative producer and journalist, and my name is Chris Todd. And I'm here in Los Angeles, California, the home of it all. First thing I'd like to talk about is Hollywood. Okay, in this first episode, a little bit of Hollywood. I'm going to go over the cases that I've worked. I'm going to solve some murders for you right here in the first episode. In the second and third episode, I'm going to talk about O.J. and Charlie and the mob. The mob as you know it, and the mob as how they really function. So I thank you for being here. Let's get right into it. Come on the journey with me. Natalie Wood was a case I worked for many years. Sometimes I was somewhat undercover, and I had to because, if you work a murder case, Natalie Woods was very high profile. 1981, November 29th, the date just came by, and I gave a lot of my life to Natalie Wood. I had some great people talk to me about it, bring me the idea, some brilliant people. I was able to do more on it than they were because I lived it. That's what I do. I live these stories. I live the cases. Okay. And I know that sounds weird. Well, who do I partner with? The killers, the accomplices, sometimes the victims, sometimes the families. I have to just have one domino piece, right? One foot in the door. That's all I need. Okay. And then it's basically mine. Okay. My type of personality, I'm a leader type. I don't really work for anyone. This is where I'm at. Okay. And I did work in Hollywood for 20 years, and I did some great stuff, and I'm proud of the stuff I did. And they can never take that away from me, okay? So one thing I wanted to talk about, well, I started with Natalie Wood. Let me just backtrack real quick to Hollywood. And I want to talk about Charlotte Kirk and the Ron Meyer, Kevin Tusiahara, Brett Ratner, O.J. Simpson connection. This magazine recently came out where Charlotte was in this. And this ties to O.J. Simpson, and you would never think it does. The Me Too movement and what she went through. And this kind of article chronicles her story. You know, she claims that she was autistic, that she had some kind of disabilities reading people and reading social cues. And I thought that was actually interesting. I think I've never heard that before. And there's been a lot of talk of the Me Too movement and Time's Up, and they just had a bunch of bad press on them. And so I want to talk about that a little bit because it does tie to O.J. Simpson and Brett Ratner and F. Lee Bailey. And who are the attorneys that are working on the case? Howard Weitzman, that was O.J.'s lawyer. And Daniel Petrocelli, he was the lawyer that represented Fred Goldman and Sharon Rufo, Ron Goldman's parents. This is my book, Ron's Revenge. For the Dead, It's Never Over. My other book, If We Did It. How O.J. Simpson and his accomplice walked free. Okay, so we're going to finish up on Hollywood, then to Natalie, then to John Benet Ramsey and Aaron Hernandez. Charlotte Kirk. So this scandal's going on right now. I knew Ron Meyer. He was like a mentor to me. It took years to meet him, to befriend him. He opened some doors for me. He's an iconic legend in Hollywood. Created CAA with Ovitz and Rosenfeld and Roland Perkins. And I looked up to these guys, you know. I'm kind of an old school guy, Phil Gersh. You're doing a deal, it's on the tennis court, it's on the golf course. It's not in the office. It's not at NBC. I've never closed the deal in the office at NBC. I have in a bar. I have in an email. I have in correspondence on Facebook. So, you know, what people think of Hollywood and how it works and how you can break in, and it's not what you think it is. And I was them. I may be one of the only people that can say, I hate white people. Okay, who can say that? I can. And it's not about white people, right? There's some good people in Hollywood, but they always get caught behaving badly. And what Charlotte Kirk's story is with Brett Ratner, with Kevin Tusiahara, who's the president of Warner Brothers, right? Well, they were passing her around like a piece of meat. And they got caught. And there were drugs involved, cocaine. And that's going to come back to O.J. Simpson and the mob in Miami. And I don't want to go off on the tangent. So they end up giving Charlotte Kirk $3.5 million, okay, for her to play Nicole Brown Simpson, okay? They shoot some of the movie in Romania or Bulgaria. They get 20% done. They can't finish it. I'm sure it was awful. Who knows? They say they're raising money. It was all an extortion. It was all set up, okay, by her paramours, and there were guys that influenced her. And I'm not blaming her at all. I just think it's an interesting avenue and entry point into what's going on today. Why is F. Lee Bailey telling Brett Ratner, yeah, you should do that movie, Nicole and OJ? You know, he brings up some good points about the accomplice and, you know, the mafia. And I'm like, what are you guys talking about? You don't know Charlie. You didn't work with him for 3 years. You don't have his script, do you? Do you know what's inside this? It's scary. It's scary, and I'm going to read from it. I'm not supposed to have it. Okay? So they do a $3.5 million float to them. They shoot some of the movie. I'm sure they pocket the money, whatever, good for them. You know, get your hustle on in Hollywood any way you can. She's more famous now from being abused than she ever was as an actress, okay? But for her to play Nicole Brown Simpson, there's Facebook, okay? But for her to step into my waters, which basically I when I take a project over, it's mine. Like I hold it and fight for it to death. So she plays Nicole and they move money, right? We pitched them the project. It was pitched at NBC. They had to sign releases and contracts and NDAs, and that was fine. You know, there's some good people there. I'm not here to bash on Hollywood. I'm not here to slash and burn. I'm here to present knowledge, bring healing, bring hope, tell you my story, learn from me, learn from my story. And that's what my friends told me to do. They said, put this down, not for posterity's sake, But let's see you. Show us you. No one knows you. You don't know the name Chris Todd. It's not a household name. So they shoot some of the movie. The point of this really is, you come to people with projects and they end up moving money on a fake version, a fraudulent version for $3.5 million, Warner Brothers and NBC. It's proven. It's in the court documents. It's all being released. I came to you with the real accomplice story, the real story of OJ and Nicole, okay? What really happened on June 12th? That has value, okay? And anyone that knows me, I'm a pretty normal person. I really am. Okay. And I know some people are laughing right as I say that. Okay. Yeah. Am I going to do some weird stuff in here? I sure am. I'm going to play some of the characters. I'm going to do some monologues. Sure. That's what I do. I was an actor. I was a performer in Los Angeles. Isn't that what everybody does? So I never understood why they thought I was like so strange or scary to them. I mean, we could get a knock on the door right now. I'm not even joking. Like, I have no idea who will knock on that door. Okay. Or if my phone rings, let's just say if it's a restricted number, I have to answer it. Okay. So I put a lot into that story and I wrote the books and I didn't have the script till the very end. I just recently got the script. Okay. I had to remember what was in it, which was kind of annoying. So, and they wanted to hide that from me. So anyway, they tie it all together. They have a Me Too movement, Charlotte Kirk, the O.J. Simpson, all the lawyers, Marty Singer, Petrocelli, F. Lee Bailey. When I read the articles, it's called The Legal Maze of Charlotte Kirk. I read it. It hurts. It's like, it's a slap in the face to me. And sometimes Hollywood blocks stories. They block murder solves. We're going to talk about that in Natalie Wood. Okay, we're perfectly going to segue right to Natalie Wood. They will block stories. They're not the press. I get it. I've researched a lot of the laws and like what censorship is versus free speech versus free press. Okay, I live this stuff. Okay, they shouldn't be blocking stories. No one should be censoring the news. If something happens, it's not about promoting my book. Some of these clowns at some of these news outlets. Oh, are you trying to promote a book? Oh, am I the first one who wrote a book? Hold on. Am I the first one who wrote a book on O.J. Simpson? This is going to be really weird. I can keep going. I'm going to keep going. There's about 40 books. So what's the problem with me writing a book? I'm not promoting it. I'm actually donating the money to a whistleblower foundation in D.C. because I got tired. And I did learn some things from people in Hollywood. There were some brilliant people there. Sometimes don't do it for the money. I had a guy teach me this. Don't even ask for any money. I got to feed my kids. I got to pay rent. Don't ask for a dime. Prove to me what you are. And I love that. It just inspired me. I'm like, that makes a lot of sense. I get it. He's like, you'll get paid later. Do something. Show me, solve a murder. And he helped me get on Natalie Wood, this guy. So that's all I'll say about the Hollywood thing for now. Maybe in the other episodes I'll say more, but just the connections of that and how it all ties in. A lot of people are famous because of O.J. Simpson, the Kardashians, all the reporters, Nancy Grace Geraldo, Vinnie Politan, Dan Abrams. And I went to these people and they didn't want to talk to me. Well, here I am. I'm here now, right? And that's another thing I learned from some brilliant guys in Hollywood. Just do it. Just make it. Okay, don't spec it out. Just do it. Make the product. And that's it. It's done. Okay, Natalie Wood. I love Natalie Wood. And I can say that because she kind of changed my life. I was going through some rough patches and I got on the project. My head really wasn't right. I should never have been working at all. Like, my family issues and financial issues. My head was really twisted. And the Natalie Wood thing I came onto, but I had an ability to turn it off like a switch. I could turn off, and I kind of was a tough kid growing up a little bit. And I can like turn off my anger for a second and then redirect to something else. And that's what I had to do on Natalie Wood. I befriended the captain, Dennis Davern. I befriended the authors, the investigators, the investors. There was an investor that was involved that wanted to make the movie. I ended up writing the script. It's called Splendor. And I did it on my own. And if anyone emails me, my email is investigatorla19@gmail.com. Investigatorla19@gmail.com. I'll show you the script. Remember what I said about the money? It's all free. It's all free. You want to see the script? I'll send it to you. You want to see pages of his script? I'll send it to you. I'll show it to you. So, Natalie Wood. I solved Natalie Wood's murder. No one can turn back the hands of time. I already did it. The reason no one knows that is because Hollywood blocked the story for 3 years. Okay? And because I was on the case for 5 years. I've been on this for a long time. And the people before me that really passed the torch, they were on it for 25 years. And why didn't anyone tell the story? That's weird. Were they afraid of Robert Wagner? Maybe. Were they afraid of Chris Walken? Probably. What about Dennis Davern? What was he going to do to you? He was a captain. He's an alcoholic, seafaring man, which is beautiful. What could Robert Wagner do to you? What if Robert Wagner did kill Natalie Wood and the captain watched it happen and Chris Walken listened to it happen? Are they accomplices? Is that aiding and abetting? Is it tampering? Is it concealment of murder? All of the above. And so that maze was fascinating. And I was fascinated by the book. I don't have it here. There was a book that the woman wrote. And she didn't bump her head and fall in the water, okay, in Blue Cove or the Blue Point Cove and on Catalina Island. And so I solved her murder. And I'm not going to go into it. I could do a whole podcast on Natalie Wood. And they were on Dr. Phil. And they were on Dr. Oz. And when I wrote Dr. Oz's producers, and they talked to me and called me, and what do we need to talk to you for? Because I solved her murder. Oh, no, we already solved it. They brought the captain on, and they brought the investigators, and they built a little boat out of popsicle sticks. They didn't solve it. Do you know why? Because he's in on it. He can't solve it. Don't you get it? That's why Charlie can't solve OJ. Because if he says too much, he's going in for life. Dennis Davern spit out these little clues. I heard this. I turned the music up. I looked away. When I looked away, and then when I came back, she was gone. Okay? Does that sound right to you? Because that's not what happened. Chris Walken, after Robert Wagner smashed the bottle on the table and people tried to copyright this idea of him doing that. I'm like, can you copyright a bottle smash? I mean, I guess maybe you can. And Chris Walken just got up. And I talk about it in my script. And it's talked about in that book. And he just stares. He stares at Robert Wagner. What's wrong with you? Right? You've lost it. It's Saturday night. There were 2 nights of this. Chaos, fighting, posturing, the rumor, I can't tell you how many people have asked me this, okay? And this is how, like, the game of phone or how investigations can go south so fast, okay? Well, didn't Natalie Wood catch Walken and Wagner, like, hooking up with each other like gay men? No, that never happened. They hated each other, okay? Hated. And that always, people have that stuck in their head. They'll focus on that, okay? Instead of like when we present evidence and clues and smoking guns. What? Who? No. Go back to that gay part, okay? And we see it in TV. There's this sensationalism, okay? That stuff's more interesting. I get it. That's not my world. That's not what I do, okay? And am I saying 7.2 billion people want to talk to me? No, I'm not. Do 30% of them? You bet your ass they do. You bet they do, okay? There's 30% of the world's population that needs to know who I am, okay? And that's why I'm doing this. It's me and you, remember? So that's Natalie Wood. I'm not going to go into the details about it. You can email me. I'll show you the script. I solved the murder in the script. I have fun with it too. I had a lot of fun with the script. You know, I had some crazy scenes between Walken and Davern and, just these moments and looking at the stars and talking about constellations and the Greeks. And I do a lot of fun stuff in there. I think it'd be cool to read it and check it out. So, hopefully someday Natalie Wood gets justice. Robert Wagner's 90 years old, okay? And I'll say it. Robert Wagner killed Natalie Wood. And you heard me say that the captain and walk-in had seen it and listened to it and witnessed the prelude of it. They were part of it, okay? And they should have said something. They should have. And a lot of times these things are perfect storms, okay? This person doesn't talk. That person doesn't talk. This cop asked the wrong question. Wagner's got the hair. He kind of sobers up real quick. Guys, where's Natalie? Where's Natalie? You know where she is, Robert. RJ, OJ, big egos, jealous husbands. In my book, I talk about the connections, RJ, OJ. Okay, I want to move on. To JonBenet Ramsey. And this case, I came on to later, at the end. This has been going on for 20 years. They already did 1,000 specials. They said Brooke pushed her down the stairs. I met a lot of these people. I met some pretty interesting reporters in Colorado. I wrote the DA's office. I got a pretty good response from the DA's office in Colorado in Boulder. I said, I can solve this murder. I go, this is what I do. I get inside it and I find these little clues and I'm going to show it to you and then I'm going to recreate it. I'm going to tell you what happened. CBS wanted nothing to do with me. Back to Hollywood. That's why we're talking about it. CBS said, no. I want 50 grand. Pay me 50 grand. Take me 3 months. You can interview me, cut my footage. No, we're going to do Brooke. Burke. Sorry, I keep saying Brooke. We're going to do Burke. Well, guess what? How much money Burke cost you? $9 million. That's how much he cost you. Okay. He actually sued CBS for $750 million. I don't know where he works. I don't know what kind of lifestyle he leads. It sounds expensive. $750 million. It cost him $9 million cash. Okay. They had to settle with him out of court because they kept insinuating that he knew that she was murdered or he had something to do with it. Now, if you're CBS, why would you do that? If an investigator came to you, right, who has a little bit of a background, AJ Benza did a podcast about me, Murder on My Mind, Fame is a Bitch. Go look it up. He's not dumb. He knew I was telling the truth about Charlie, and he loved the story. He knew OJ. He knew the mob guys. He was amazing. Okay, AJ Benza is an amazing person, and he's an amazing investigator. Okay, so I'm kind of almost like the next AJ Benza in a way, but there's different things he's done. He's a bigger name than I am. And hopefully someday, I can be on these guys' level, etc. So JonBenet. Patsy Ramsey killed JonBenet. And John helped her cover it up. Okay? Whether John was involved in the murder, maybe. I wasn't there, right? I'm not God. Patsy Ramsey killed JonBenet. And God took her. He punished her. She died of cancer, I think, in 2004. They buried her next to JonBenet, which is a little weird. But that's what happened. And they staged it. They staged the boxes by the window, and that's all fake. And, I'll tell you what the smoking gun is, basically. And there's a lot more to it. I know a lot about the case now, and it's easier to solve these things. I do work civilian cases. Those are harder to solve than famous ones. Famous ones are the easiest ones, and that's why I did those. Okay, Ron Goldman, Natalie Wood. I did another famous African-American story, Aaron Hernandez. Okay. The clues are there. They're so public. The lights are on them. They're right in front of your face. When you do a random civilian case, I didn't know those people. Like when I met the mom from the Delphi girls or the Cal 5. I don't know these people. I know nothing about them, the kids, or where they were, why'd they go there. So the smoking gun on JonBenet Ramsey basically is this, okay? And this took years to come out, okay? And obviously coming to the case, like we just said, coming to the case later, it's easier to solve it. There's more information. So I'm not saying I'm Dominic Dunn, or Sherlock Holmes. I'm just saying I'm doing some stuff that no one's ever done. And I think it's important. I think news should not be censored. I think people have a right to know and a need to know. And they should listen to me and give me a pulpit. So I don't charge anything. I'm not making any money. So there's no motivation of money. Okay. Smoking gun on John Bonet. So when the police come to the house, they come early in the morning, okay? And there's a female officer and they interviewed her. She came forward later and she had these kind of eyes and she was very dramatic. And I think people didn't believe her in some of the things she said. And I just want to check we're still good with my producer. We still good? You need to do anything? We cool?
We're at 25:35.
We need to reset anything or we're good?
We're good.
Copy that. Big time operation here, guys. Come on. So smoking gun. So they interview the female reporter, the police officer, and she comes out years later saying, look, this is what happened when I was at the Ramsey's house in the morning. And she's affected by it, okay? And she talks about this moment where she looks at John Ramsey and they both their eyes like kind of meet, right? And she knows he did it. And he knows she knows, okay? You can watch the interview. You'll feel it. You'll see it. Okay. So she also talks about this, and this to me was the smoking gun. Okay. So they search the house. They can't find her. Oh, there's some boxes. There's a window open. How convenient. And you have to work murder cases and work with the lowest of the low to think like them. To a normal police officer who's bound by laws, regulations, racism, accusations, not malpractice, because that's, I guess, the health industry, but corruption. They had it out for John Ramsey. The police are in a tough spot. And that's why a lot of times, and I work with the police more than once on these cases, a lot of times they say, look, it can't be gray. It's got to be black and white. I was one time wearing a gray shirt and the detective goes, you're very gray like your shirt. And I looked down at my shirt and I realized I was wearing a gray shirt. So it was really funny, but we have to have what we can prove. We may think Patsy Ramsey killed her, but we can't prove it. We may think John Ramsey had something to do with it, but we can't prove it. You can't? You sure? Well, actually, you know who ends up deciding? It's called a jury. And it's not the police. Let the jury decide. Okay? And sometimes that can backfire, like on OJ, right? People think that got all messed up, the verdict. So they can't find John Bonet. Okay, they're looking for her. There's another police officer there. John looks for her. No one can find her. They find a ransom note that just happens to be written in Patsy Ramsey's exact handwriting. And she writes a whole book and asks for $118,000. And that was his bonus that he had gotten. Whether that's a mistake she did or she did it on purpose, who knows? I've seen some crazy stuff done in murder cases and cover-ups. So obviously she wrote the ransom note. Okay. All right. So staying focused. They can't find her. Where is she? Oh, the morning. The sun's coming up. It's, 8:30 in the morning. Still can't find her. She's kidnapped. That's why there's a ransom note. Okay. So the officer tells him to stop looking for her, to John Ramsey and his best friend who happens to be there, right? Stop looking for her. He won't stop looking for her. Okay. Ready? Get it? Because he knows where she is. Okay. So when the cops are still upstairs, he takes his best friend, while the guard's down. They've been there for hours. It's getting pretty boring. Well, they go downstairs and lo and behold, they walk up with her body in his arms. There she is. Here she is. Well, that's weird. Well, where was she, John? She was in a closet. Well, when the police looked through the house and they asked you, John Ramsey, what's behind that door? Because it's locked. And you said nothing's in there. Gotcha. And they could have had you if they smashed the door in or kicked it in, but they didn't. And that's what happens. Perfect storm. There's a lot of moments in the OJ case too. Rachel Ferrara, Cato Kalin's girlfriend, testifies and she blurts out a couple things I won't get into in this episode. And she walks out of the courtroom and the camera follows her as she walks away. You know what also walked away when she walked out the courtroom? The case. The guilty verdict. Bye-bye. Bye-bye. Right there. It walked out with Rachel Ferrara. And I saw it and I was frozen. So anyway, back to JonBenet. Gotcha, John, right? So he brings her up. Now, why does he carry her up the stairs? To destroy the DNA, right? Put his DNA all over her. Now it's ruined, right? Now he's also covering for Patsy Ramsey, right? And this is probably part of the plan. You write the ransom note. We'll find her. We're going to lay her body in the living room on Christmas Day, my Lord's birthday. Do you think we would let you, John, murder her on Christmas Day? No, we won't. Whether I write a book about it, I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen with that. But so that's one of them. And the female officer knew that. She knew that. He carried the body up, destroys the DNA. He knows where she is the entire time. Patsy colludes with him. They bring her up. They lay her there. I mean, could you imagine that scene if you made a movie of this? Okay, she's laying there. She's like, there's like a tourniquet or whatever, guillotine or whatever. She's, choked to death. There's mutilation of areas on her body. That's a crazy, crazy sight. That's the movie you should have made, CBS Films. That's the film you should have done, CBS. Okay, but you can't do it because the second you try to make that movie, you get sued for slander, okay? But also remember, it's not slander if what you say is true. And if you can't turn back the hands of time, and there's also a jury that gets to decide, excuse me, a jury gets to decide his fate. Let him. Why did they never push that to trial, That's a massive injustice against JonBenet Ramsey right there, that they didn't even go to trial. Also, if you look at all the footage, why are the Ramseys always interviewed together? Okay, why are they never separated? Okay, I think one time they were separated. Once. Why? No one does that. What is that? Well, because he has some pull in the community, and the police are tippy-toeing over him, just like Van Adder and Lang did with OJ. And Mark Furman, remember everybody wrote a book on OJ. Mark Furman talks about that, the interrogation of OJ Simpson, of what the cops did wrong, Van Adder and Lang. Look how thick his book is. We'll get into Mark Furman very soon. So there's a lot of stuff there that proves that Patsy killed her, that John covered it up or was part of it or tried to stop her, and maybe no. They say he abused her sexually for a year. The jealousy would be there. You have motive, you have means, and you have opportunity. Okay? You have all three. They're in the house. Burke's asleep. It's Christmas morning. Everybody's at home. It's quiet. Those rich neighborhoods. You could drop a pin in those neighborhoods, and I'm surprised no one heard her screaming. Okay? I'm sure someone claimed that. So that's what basically happened on JonBenet Ramsey. It could be solved. It should have been solved. They should have been pointed at. God punished her, took her. If you look at any interviews of John Ramsey, even recent ones he's done, he's guilty. Look at his face. Stop looking for carpet fibers. Stop worrying about cc's of blood drops. Start looking inside them, in their mind. Look in their eyes. And I know police and judges can't do that, but I can. Last thing I want to talk about in this episode. Okay. Aaron Hernandez, I may touch upon. People love that story. I had a famous journalist talk to me the other day. He had some great insight. People have done 9 documentaries about Aaron Hernandez. I ended up partnering with Aaron. I'm from Connecticut, okay? And I met some of the family, and I liked Aaron's story from Jump Street. And I grew up with those kids. I was Aaron in a way. The gangster rap culture, the invasion of that in the 90s in the white suburbs of Connecticut. I lived that. I thought I was black for 10 years. Street ball and, partying and the attitude and the trash talk. I did a lot of that stuff. I rapped at one point. I know you're all going to want to hear me do that. Spoken word. So Aaron Hernandez was a very famous story. I wrote a script about that also called 4th and Inches. You can email me if you want to see that. I talk about the gangster culture that the white suburbs kind of absorbed in the 90s. That's when Aaron was growing up. I'm a little older than Aaron is, obviously. And that contributed to it. Hollywood has to take, there's consequences for what they do. The guns and everything's blowing up and everybody's shooting at each other and chasing someone and shoot. They make violence, right? Not only do they desensitize you to violence, they make it like play, okay? You know, they have comedies where people, oh, I just shot myself in the foot. Well, you could die from that. Okay, it hits the wrong artery or vessel or, you know, you fall down or get hurt even further. Okay, it's not funny. And Hollywood pumps these things out just like, it's like a machine, just like every day, like shoving these things down our throat. And I think it's wrong. I really do. So I was them. That's how I know how they think. I was them. I wanted to be them. And I probably would have been caught in the scandal with Charlotte Kirk if I didn't change my ways, you know? And then lastly, I guess I do want to say lastly, civilian cases, okay? Because in the second episode and third episode, I'm going to be diving into OJ now. The mob, the cocaine, Bill Waz, Bob Kardashian, all the players. Okay, this was like an introductory. So we're going to start diving into the big stuff, okay? So last thing on civilian cases. The Cal 5. I think that's a case you guys should look at. These 5 men went missing within a few years of each other. They've never found them, okay? Some people thought, I met 2 of the families. I met the mom. I met the cousin. I talked to them and dealt with them for months. Got yelled at by them. Oh, how dare you say that? How dare you? You know, when I work a case, I'm going to tell you what I think, and I'm going to tell you, again, you can't turn back the hands of time. I'm either right or I'm wrong. There's no really in between, right? So I had to tell a couple of the families that 3 of the guys committed suicide, that they killed themselves. And they weren't murdered. They weren't kidnapped. One of the guys I said might still be alive. I felt like he was alive. I have a spiritual intuition too that I use. I don't just look at, this is why my thing is different and I'm doing things no one's ever done. I think one of the guys was still alive, and I think the other guy was murdered. So there were 5 total, 3 suicides, 1 still alive, 1 was murdered in a drug hit. It was over drugs the kid had in San Francisco. And they were all in the Bay Area. So they called them the Cal 5. And you can look them up. And a couple of the kids, the victims, I relate to the victims. That's what I do. I don't relate to the parents. I don't relate to the other PI who may ask me some questions or contact me. That you're not important. The victims are. The victims are who I do it for. Okay? I'm their voice. I'm their storyteller. Because I'm tired of all the lies. That's what Ben Kramer said. I got to do my monologues. Don't forget to remind me to do some monologues for you. The Cal 5, I felt 3 of the guys were suicide. 2 of the guys had brain injuries. They had like a head injury and they were a little off. There was some depression. I did some research on the Golden Gate Bridge. How many people jump off that thing a year? I was like, whoa, wait a minute. And the bodies can just be drifted out into the ocean and they're never found, right? So that's a popular place where kids will do that. One of the guy's stuff was at the park, Golden Gate Park. His car was parked there. Oh, he went for a hike and he got kidnapped and got lost. No, he jumped off the Golden Gate Bridge and he's gone. And he wanted me to tell you this. The other case I did recently, the Delphi girls. That case, please bring your attention to that. Anyone, please help on that. That one will drive you nuts. That one is crazy. They have imagery of the guy. There's a picture of him. He's walking. He's got that weird limp, like the guy they interviewed at the farmhouse where he owns the land. That guy walks just like him. That's kind of weird. Sometimes you'll see God or the devil inside these things kind of trick you. I thought it was him, and they arrested the guy. He owned the property. They say it's not him, and it probably isn't, okay? They have photos. The girl, I think it was Libby did. Libby took a picture of the guy, and you see him. And they can't find this guy. They can't figure out who it is. The Indiana State Police can't. The FBI can't. It's crazy. It's fascinating to me. There's a picture. He's walking. He talks down the hill. And they can't figure it out. So I met one of the moms, and she's a great gal, and I stay in touch with her here and there, and I want to solve that murder. I really do. That one I want to solve badly. It's not about the reward. And so take a look at the Delphi murders. Those two girls, they deserve justice. They got to find the guy, or there were two guys possibly. So that's the first episode. I'll see you back here in episode 2.